I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. Malcolm Hoenlein, Conference of Presidents, Major American Jewish Organizations, and we're very pleased to welcome Elliott Abrams, a senior fellow for Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations, to help us understand the succession of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. These last days, we've watched the mourners and the reverence paid to the past King Abdullah, now passed away and buried, to the new King Salman. However, there are two figures who are important because of governance into the future. One is named Mukran, Prince Mukran, who is the new crown prince. The other is an unknown to me. His name is Mohammed. I believe he's a Sudari. That's a consistent pattern of the Sudaris being favored in the succession. He is the deputy crown prince. A very good evening to you, Elliott. Correct me if I got this wrong. Mukran, he has been there in making governance decisions for some time. Abdullah elevated him, I believe, more than a year past. What to expect from Mukran guiding the new king? Good evening to you.
Good evening. Mukran is a former head of intelligence, pretty widely liked, and he is the youngest surviving son of their father, the founder of the modern Saudi kingdom.
Abdulaziz.
Abdulaziz, that's right. Who had so many dozens of children. The question, of course, with these guys is, who lives longer, and therefore how long do you get to be king? Is it 1 year or 2 years before you go, or is it 10 or 20 years? Mukran is not seen as a great intellect or as someone who's likely to make significant changes in Saudi Arabia. In a sense, the more important thing is everybody's been waiting for the question of who gets to be king in the next generation. All the kings since the founding father have been brothers. They're all the sons of the founder. Now we know how they're going to get to the next generation, a grandson, and that's Mohammed, whom you mentioned. He's 55, so he could guarantee the succession for 30 years, given a normal lifespan, and that has. That's the first time we've seen what the Saudi royal future looks like. The other thing that the new king, Salman, did just now, really in the last hours, was to make a large series of appointments in which he elevated a number of people, including a number of commoners, pretty meritocratic for Saudis, and kicked out two of the sons of the late King Abdullah. King Abdullah had made two of his sons governors of provinces, and the new king fired both of them, kind of cleaning house.
It is quite remarkable that how well the succession was planned, but I'm not sure that they counted on Salman playing this kind of a role. They had always depicted him as being out of it, as being afflicted with certain diseases and other inabilities. So it seems he's taking a tougher stand than we had been led to believe in earlier times.
Yes, you're right. There was a lot of people said, "Oh, he's got Alzheimer's, and he's a filler. He'll be there for a year or two." But he's really started off with a bang. I think there is a question here, though. He's old, and there is a question as to how much he's going to function and how much of it is going to be his son, Mohammed bin Salman, whom he named on his first day as king as both Minister of Defense and Minister of the Royal Court. Because if the king starts getting sicker and sicker, if he really does have Alzheimer's, his son is going to want to rule more or less in his place, hiding behind him. But the people who surround the crown prince and the people who surround the next one, Mohammed bin Nayef, the deputy crown prince, are probably going to say, wait a minute, if the king's incapacitated, the crown prince takes over, not the king's eldest son, who makes believe the king is still running everything. So if the king becomes sick, I think you'll see a lot of tension within the family.
And the next generation will be even worse.
Yeah, but for now, it's a smoother succession than predicted. And as you said, Malcolm, the new king, Salman, is really doing a lot more and instantly in changing personnel than was predicted. So far, no policy changes. And on the key things that we look for example, foreign policy, the foreign minister has been renamed to the post.
And oil price?
Policy, the oil, that's Prince Saud. Oil policy, the oil minister has been asked to stay in his post. So I don't think you're going to see big policy changes, but we are seeing the faces change in many places. And by the way, Prince Bandar, who was ambassador to the U.S. for about 25 years, very well known here, then went home to be head of their National Security Council. The king has just dissolved the National Security Council, fired Bandar. So Bandar is basically through.
Elliott, this suggests to me, are we watching the Roman succession when Claudius with the club foot pretended to be ill or in some fashion disabled, and that kept him alive through all the slaughter of Caligula and Tiberius?
You know, no one has made that comparison to me before, but it's interesting.
No one else will.
Yes, I've been reading for years that, certainly for a year, that Salman was feeble, hopeless, Alzheimer's, demented.
Which was what Claudius said he was before,
yeah, and
yes.
Boom. I mean,
yes.
He really changed things on his first week as king.
Can I ask you, you wrote something, I don't know, John, if you saw it, that Elliott described the delegation that the president took as simply ridiculous. Why characterize it like that?
You know, the late King, Abdullah, was not Winston Churchill. The president sent a gigantic delegation. I mean, all sorts of officials from his administration, from previous administrations. Now, remember, this is not a funeral. The Saudis, being Muslims, being strict Muslims, bury the following day, just as the Jews do.
There's a Shiva call.
He was buried in a simple family ceremony the following day. So all this is kind of paying your respects. You have this, yes, you have a big delegation. They probably didn't meet with hardly anybody. They were barely there. If you have, 50 people in your delegation, I've been in these delegations, the first 2 or 3 who are sitting near the king can hear the conversation. Others don't even know what was going on. So I thought, for the president to go, that's fine. I thought it would have been nice if the president did what George W. Bush did, by the way, for Pope John Paul's funeral. He took Bill Clinton. Nice bipartisan thing. I think it would have been nice if the president had gone with a very small delegation, if he had invited George Bush, if he had invited Bill Clinton, even Jimmy Carter. That is, take a few presidents with you. But I thought this was really overkill.
Was it meant to amend what is well known in the Middle East, that the tensions between Saudi Arabia and especially the king and the president, they may not have liked each other, but certainly the king has made disparaging remarks, and you hear it when you visit Saudi Arabia. So was this meant to try and put things back on track and with the new king?
We have 30 seconds, Elliott.
2 things, yeah. I think it was meant to try to change that, and I think it was also a reaction to Paris. To Paris, he sent 0 people. So to Saudi Arabia, he takes 100 people. So the average is 50. That's the right number.
And you divide Auschwitz too, where they
That's right. So I think it was a reaction to the criticism for not having a delegation in Paris, and I think it's well known that the late King Abdullah was not keen on U.S. policy under President Obama. They didn't have a personal relationship, so maybe he's trying to start one with the new king. It's hard, because they're separated in age by something like 35 years.
Elliott Abrams, Senior Fellow for Middle Eastern Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations, giving us breaking news story about changes in governance in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia within these last hours. Significantly, King Salman acting as sharp as you could expect. Malcolm Hoenlein, I'm John Batchelor.